Last evening, we were joined by a panel featuring some of the funniest people we know. You may know them as actors and activists, but you're about to get to know them as parents too. We're thrilled to bring you up close and personal for an unscripted and real conversation on the chaos of parenthood with our founders, Ron and Mia, joined by Diane Raphael, Rob Huebel, and Chudney Ross.
Have here today with us on the stage parents who made FeedFest, some of the parents who made FeedFest really special and who made it fun and funny. You know, parenting is hard and feeding is hard and it's chaotic and but there's a lot of humor in it. And these are people on the stage, comedians, activists, parents who bring that levity and realness to parenting. And so I'm so excited to introduce today our friends and our co-panelists on at ByHeart Feed Fest. So we have Rob Huebel, we have June, Diane Raphael, and we have a relatively long time ByHeart ambassador who's been on Cluster. And so I'd like to introduce all of you and have you guys introduce yourselves. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Oh my gosh. Is this when I show my C-section scar to the audience?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I should show mine.
Rob, you've never had a C-section. Wow, thanks so much. That was so lovely, and I've loved learning about ByHeart, and I'm so inspired by what you all are doing, and specifically the reason why I wanted to be a part of this is because feeding was really hard for me as a new mom, and I remember going to a breastfeeding class where the instructor told me and my husband who was sitting next to me, there's no reason that every single woman here shouldn't be able to exclusively breastfeed for the first year. And I didn't know anything, so was like, okay, that's a fact. A person told it to me, so I take that as fact. And of course, I had a very difficult time breastfeeding and realized there's actually a million reasons why it might not work for your family. One of them could just be you don't care to do it. Great reason. But I had internalized so much of the messaging around breastfeeding, and I then had a great experience with my second breastfeeding, and it's wonderful, and I believe in, how amazing breast milk is for babies, and also believe that if it's not working and you can find a wonderful formula that you feel great about, wow, that's a great option that you should feel really great about. So I wish I had this for myself when I was starting New Parenthood. So that's just one of the reasons why I'm so happy to be here, and so happy to be here with my two dear friends who will say something now.
Go ahead, Chudney.
I am Chudney Ross, and I luckily get to work with you and have really enjoyed being a part of Cluster and sharing sort of my parenting journey. Same thing, I feel like parents put so much pressure on themselves from the beginning, and you feel it from everywhere. You're like, oh, they're looking at me because I'm doing this wrong, or I'm not covered up when I'm nursing, or I have a bottle, all of these things that just building community and really finding that community was really important for me from the very beginning. I work with children. I started a company called Books and Cookies. I created the child care space at the Jane Club, which I think we'll hear more about. I really thought parenting was going to come super easy for me. I had a lot of experience with children that were not my own. And when that beginning, you have this baby and they're so tiny and they're relying on you to keep them alive. And I just felt a lot of pressure from everywhere, and finding other moms, other parents to support that journey, that feeding journey, that keeping that baby alive journey has really made me feel a part of something. And Cluster's been really cool to be able to share those stories so that everyone can see that we're all dealing with this together.
Just for some context, Chudney's been on Cluster, which is an online platform that we launched in June for all things feeding and new parenting. We have experts, we have parents telling stories. It's really all about connecting parents in those really distinct moments along the journey. Ron had a baby a couple years after I did, and he was asking me all these super specific questions about feeding, and I had no idea what he was talking about because I just completely forgot everything once I was in the next phase. And so the whole idea of Cluster is to bring people together at the exact moment when they're going through something and they're in the trenches together. And we have incredible contributors. And so that's also, when we launched Cluster, we also did a video series called Strange in the Night that brings together all of our parents who are just there talking about that experience of being up at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, just alone with your baby and with your strange thoughts. And it's just all about that really
real strange,
strange, isolating, scary experience of feeding. And so it's with that that we bring that same spirit and energy to everything we do, the isolation, the fear, the beauty, all of the emotions.
The boob drama.
The boob
I think
drama,
I wrote most of mine in
it.
boob drama.
Yes, yes. So thank you for all your contributions to Cluster.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Huebel, and
Were you invited here?
I think I was. This is
I
was working on the
credentials.
pool for a little while. Yeah, I mean, I'm here because, frankly, I feel like women have dominated the space for so long.
Here we go.
And it's
Here we
time
go.
for a man, a
God.
white man.
Nobody has asked for this.
No, I'm a dad, and yeah, I mean, I think it's important to talk about also the importance of like having a plan for feeding, but also knowing that like that's going to go out the window. I can talk a little bit about that later. What happened to us? We had sort of a crazy, our daughter was like super premature, and so whatever, everything went out the window, and but I'll try to keep things light. Everything worked out great, but it was crazy at the beginning. So yeah, so and also I just think feeding is one of the few things at the beginning that I think the dad can do to be involved with the baby one-on-one and bond. And I just remember like when I was doing that, I mean, our daughter's 5 now, so I just have good memories of like what that was like, those moments, because, it's such a blur. You're just exhausted, and like my wife and I were fighting about, I don't even remember, just weird
The
fights
things I
about.
said to Paul at like 3 a.m. should never be said to any human.
No.
I mean, really just
And
anger.
you should there should also be a rule that you can't bring up what we were fighting about ever again, like ever. It's just because we're zombies.
Yes. I think Paul asked me while I was like breastfeeding and changing diapers in the middle of the night. He said he woke up with one eye and was like, "Can I do anything?" And I was like, "You can continue to do nothing," which is what you've been doing. Like I became a werewolf, I stand behind everything I said. But it is hard when that was one of the reasons when it occurred to me that I could use formula and it might make me emotionally feel better. The baby would gain weight, or all of the things. It was a great choice for our family. But the other piece of it was that my husband could participate, and it helped our marriage too. And I think that's one of the things that new moms some of it you can't really prepare for, right? The total life-changing experience, but what will happen to you, your relationship to your own body, brand new relationship to your partner, and how the way you choose to feed that newborn baby is going to impact each and every one.
Yeah, Rob, I'll just say, I love how you're a dad that, really gets into the dad experience, and you're really kind of in there. And I love to, empower other dads to kind of get in there, get in the game. I acknowledge that I'm maybe too in there as somebody who knows more about breast milk than any grown man should. At ByHeart, we obsess over breast milk. We use it as our blueprint for our innovations. but I appreciate that my wife might not be such a big fan of that, as I'm the weird guy at dinner talking colostrum. But at least that I'm over here obsessing, so got you covered, Rob.
Yeah. I mean, I still have in my freezer in the garage, because my wife, when the baby came so premature, like she, at the beginning couldn't produce milk, and then little by little she started producing milk, and finally it became this like thing that she was so proud of, and I was so proud of it too. So like now we still 5 years later have like a couple bags in the freezer in the garage. So if you want those, you're welcome to them.
I mean, I've had dinner at your home. I hope you're not
Don't worry about it.
seasoning
Don't worry
anything
about
or doing
it.
anything
It's
weird.
June. It was a
Okay.
delicious event.
Okay.
All right, so as part of our programming today, we have a couple quick questions, and we're going to go around and get our panelists to tell us a few things about life with kids. So the first one is, since we're here talking about the chaos of parenthood, our first question is, what is the most chaotic story that you have about new parenting, and how did that chaotic moment actually help you settle into new parenthood?
Okay, it's all very chaotic, but I would say, and we should have taken a lesson from Paul, with my second, she's 2 now, my first slept really, really well. I did everything wrong. I rocked her and nursed her, like put her down, super quiet, totally asleep. I know you're not supposed to do that, but it worked for her. She slept through the night. It was great. Then this second baby comes along, and she's a party animal. And she decided that she was going to be up every hour and a half to 2 hours during the night. My husband needs a lesson from Paul and decided to move to the couch. So he was like unnervingly well rested, like ready for the day. And then my older daughter decided to also sleep in the bed. So now I'm co-sleeping with, which also you're not supposed to do, but I had 2 children in the bed, nursing every 2 hours, and it was just craziness. I do pretty well on not a lot of sleep, but this was like a joke. And we started talking about sleep training. We didn't do it with my first. And then a global pandemic hits. And in the first few days, the world is falling apart. My life is falling apart. I haven't slept. Like, I thought I was going to go crazy. I decided to sleep train my baby in the first few days of a global pandemic. But I will say, she sleeps 13 hours a night. She sleeps an hour and a half in the day. And we made it through the rest of the pandemic well rested. At home,
Sounds like you're
staring
really
at each
happy
other.
a pandemic happened.
Yeah. Did you?
No, that leads to all sorts of different things. But it was the most worldly chaotic time, but also just without any sleep, you can not handle any of that. I was just a mess. And so that was a good lesson, was that, first of all, second children are totally different. And what worked for the first is not going to work for the second. And sometimes you have to make some big choices, even when the world is falling apart.
Yes, I relate to that, Chudney. There's so many to choose from that this is actually hard, but I think the craziest moment for us was when my husband Paul and I had our first. Again, we had a lot of trouble, a lot of breastfeeding issues, things weren't working. I had what is it called? Mastitis, like every day. I was never not without that. And I always had it, just always. But I was just in so much pain. The first day ever I went to set on Grace and Frankie, no big deal, I'm an actress in Hollywood. But I had a clogged duct. And I was doing my first scene, and I was so nervous, and I had this clogged duct that was causing me an amount of pain that I remember, and it was so painful. And I was sneaking into the bathroom to take photos of my nipple and send them to my lactation consultant. And she was like, okay, that's the worst I've ever seen, and you need to find a needle, sterilize it.
We're having dinner,
I'm
June.
so sorry. They said to keep it real. She told me to sterilize it and puncture this duct. And I was like, I'm working with Jane Fonda. Like, I can't do that. And she's like, you have to find someone to help you if you don't think you could puncture yourself with your nipple with a needle. And I was like, I don't think I can. And God bless Paul's mom, my mother-in-law, who came to set because she is a registered nurse, with gloves on. And I met her because she couldn't get a pass to go into the studio. So I literally walked outside, got in her car, and because I started working when our first was only 10 weeks old, and again, we were struggling, having trouble with the breastfeeding, and she put that needle right into that duct, and then I sat there in the tiniest stream of breast milk you've ever seen in your life. You could barely even see it. It was so small. And I was like, oh my God, it's coming out. And she goes, grab that empty Starbucks cup. And I was like, okay. And immediate relief. And I went back and I continued working. And yeah, that was just one of the memories of like, oh, this is what it is to work and to breastfeed, and people don't really understand. It's hard to talk about. It's hard. And I just love the conversations that you're having around it and normalizing it and really getting into the nitty-gritty, because there is such a taboo around it. It's so hard to explain what you're going through, especially in a work environment. Yeah, and I don't think I threw out that cup. I think I just left it in their car. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. That was also a very clever Grace and Frankie promo.
Listen, season 7 coming out in January. I don't know if you have a Netflix subscription. I have a special code. Happy to give anyone.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much chaos at the beginning, and I have very vivid memories of, I don't know if my wife's ducts ever got clogged, but what's it called when they just, I'm asking Ron now. Ron, you would know.
He's the only one up here who will know.
Where her breast became...
I wish I had your cell phone number when that happened to me, by the way.
By the way, is my wife going to see this? I should have asked. Well, I'll have to ask my wife not to watch this, but I do remember her breasts becoming so solid, like solid.
Solid as a rock.
And she was like, you need to get in here and like break up. What is in? I know it's
Ron.
Ron, what is it?
My
inside?
expertise lies in the milk itself.
Okay.
Okay.
So this
Ron's
is not one for me, actually.
Ditching me now, Ron. But anyway, I remember having to like break that up, and before her ducts would become
I understand.
But also I remember like our daughter was born 3 months early and was at Cedars. Man, shout out to Cedars. Was at Cedars for 117 days in the NICU, and so and she's fine now. She's just driving me crazy, but no, she's awesome. But at the beginning, so she was in the hospital for 4 months. We finally bring her home, and you can imagine you are terrified. It's the most terrifying moment. It's this tiny little fragile human that I am not qualified to take care of at all, and to make sure that she gets what she needs to eat. So, I mean, we were sweating it out. We had like a logbook, and we were writing down every little time she ate any sort of thing. We had like just pages and pages and pages and pages of like exactly what she was doing. And I remember like having to, because we had to mix all of these medicines into her stuff at the beginning, like erythromycin and all these other things. And I remember being so tired and just thinking like, I hope I don't mess this up, and turning and just like knocking it all over, like all the milk, all like liquid gold.
The breast milk?
Yes. Don't tell my
Rob.
wife. That's why I'm asking my wife
God.
not to watch this. But
Rob.
but yeah, so I know that should be the name of the show is Rob. But yeah, so chaos is going to happen, and I think you just need to, I mean, my advice for a new parent is like, just assume that it's going to be chaotic, assume you're going to make huge mistakes, but like, they're so adaptable. Like they don't know that you're winging this.
Yeah, they're
You
quite
know,
dumb.
They're
quite dumb.
They're quite. Why are babies so
They
dumb?
just don't. They don't have it.
They
you know?
don't
They don't
have it. They don't have it. But yeah. So I think just be ready to improvise and allow yourself to make huge mistakes, and just keep going. Just keep going. That's all I can say is like, it's gonna get. They're gonna get bigger and stronger and healthy.
Yeah.
Ron?
Yeah, one that comes to mind is before the first time we flew with our little one, Zoa, we go to the doctor, and he's like, the second that the flight takes off, Carrie, you need to feed the baby, or like the ears are going to explode, like real ear problems. And so, of course, she's all stressed, and so I'm all stressed, and I'm like, this is my moment, I got to get in the game, and, I got like the blanket, and I'm covering her, and the whole thing. But the thing is, like, a baby's not a little machine. You can't just shove a nipple in there, like, the second you need him to feed. And so you can imagine that was a disaster. And so I think the, learning there is people are going to give you the advice, they're going to tell you the things, and, they're just not always going to work out that way.
Nice. My most chaotic story, I would say, was probably when I just had Nev, my first, and I had 4 months off of work, and I said, I'm going to go back to London, where I lived when I was young and fun, and I'm going to bring my baby, and I'm going to show them that I'm this cool mom, and I'm like taking it all in stride. And and she's 2 months, and I was breastfeeding, and I get to London, and I brought my breast pump, which was just freedom, and I thought I was gonna pump, and then I was gonna go out, and I was gonna be cool mom. And I get there, and I plug in my breast pump, and because of some weird voltage issue, my breast pump explodes into flames. And at that moment, I started hysterically calling everybody I knew in London, asking them what breast pump to buy and where I could access it, and how I could get one from the hospital. And my freedom was gone, and I spent the whole time just being the most uncool mom ever, and just ruining all the friendships that I had when I was in London. So yeah, I think there's no such thing as cool or uncool mom. It's just getting through it. Just keep going is the thing that I learned, and it was very helpful. A very helpful start to parenthood. All right, so the next one, we're here today to really celebrate kind of community, and at the end of the day, we just need that shoulder to lean on or to cry on, and friendship and community is everything and helps us get through. And something really interesting about you two is that you guys have been friends for a long time, and you're parenting.
I mean, we're only 22, so not.
Yeah, not that long.
Too
Not that
long.
long.
Yeah,
but
so
your
a couple
parenting
years.
journey started together. So tell us about that.
Oh gosh. Well, Rob is my oldest son's godfather, so there's that. And
I
then,
am?
Oh wow.
I got to write that down.
Yeah, I mean, me and Holly were in the hospital at the same time at one point.
Yeah, but that was bizarre.
But that was just strange.
But you were.
Well, I was actually giving birth.
Can I tell your reaction to that? Like,
Yes, please.
Okay, this is Sammy, right? Should I not say?
Oh
his
yes,
name?
I'm sorry. It was Sam. You're right. It was Sam.
So my wife and I were not due for months and months and months, and we were, having a great time and furniture shopping, and she started bleeding, and so we, and it was serious, and so I rushed her to the hospital, and they rushed her up to the maternity ward, and we look, and Paul and June are coming down the hallway, and they thought that we were there to congratulate them. Like they were like, hey, like how did you guys get backstage like at the hospital? And
Did the news leak?
Yeah. And so I just remember, and we were right next door to you guys, right?
Yes, you were very close by.
Yeah, so you had just had your baby, and we were still months away.
And I remember Holly, so Rob's wife was very disturbed. So for my second, I had a scheduled C-section, and I had a very difficult birth with my first and was excited to schedule a C-section and needed to, but also wanted to, and had my full hair and makeup done. And I remember, I mean, I looked honestly better than I do right now. And the C-section was scheduled at, I think, 10:30 a.m. or 11, and I had my hair and makeup people arrive at, 7 a.m. And Holly was so confused. She was like, "Why do you look like this?" And I was like, "Why not? Why not?" And I know those photos are going wide, and I knew this was happening. This isn't a surprise. And again, why not?
You got a lot of likes.
It really did. And yeah, it was just so funny. She was very confused. I think she thought we were like shooting a movie for a birth. And I was like, no, I'm just camera ready. No regrets there. Not a one.
Another thing very quickly, I would say that you guys did for us that I remember was, because we were so stressed out and freaking out when we got our baby home, that you guys organized like a meal train for us. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what that is, I'm sure everybody knows what that is, but you get all of your friends to start bringing food over so you don't have to cook. And it literally saved our lives. Like we were not eating or sleeping or thinking about eating or sleeping. And it just meant as far as community, it just meant so much to us to have all of our friends coming by and bringing food. And these were pre-pandemic times when you could get in close and kiss people on the mouth. And
although I remember when Paul and I were writing that email to everyone because someone had done that for us. I think Casey, our other good friend, had done that for us. And it is the best thing in the world because you can't think about food. But on our meal trains, people would stay for too long. They'd stay for too long. And so on your meal train, Rob, Paul and I wrote a very specific note about their new parents drop off the food and get out of there, get gone, to the point where people were like, "Can we ring the doorbell?" I was like, "No."
Well, thank you for doing that.
Well,
that
of course.
Yeah, that's a real friend.
Well, and the other story I'll share is that I have a feeling this was Holly, but I'll give you credit too, Rob. This past, whatever the first Easter was when the pandemic started, I don't know, time has melted to me. So whenever that was, my husband and I completely forgot about Easter. Just forgot that it was coming, forgot that the kids expected something from it, forgot about the Easter bunny. We were just in shock and trauma. And Rob and his wife dropped off Easter baskets for the boys and truly saved the holiday. Saved it. And I was like, what? We didn't know Easter was tomorrow, and the kids did, and this would have been a disaster. And I do think that's it is the power of community and people looking out for each other, and especially during the pandemic, the way that moms and parents have saved holidays and created experiences not just for their kids, but for other kids has been so beautiful.
We're just super religious, and we like to force it on people. We're not.
Well, yeah, parenting really can be very anxiety-inducing. It can also be very competitive. And so, that's when you rely on the community to kind of help you get through. Real quick, tell us about the Jane Club.
Yes, Chudney, you jump in here. I'd love to. So the Jane Club, I talked just a second ago about my experience heading back to work after, and I use that word in quotation marks because parenting and mothering is, of course, work. We're just not paid for it. But my transition was really hard, and I had sort of had this idea that you could have all these things and continue on in your career without stopping at all and be the mother you wanted to be, and was really rudely awakened by the reality of it, even in the position I was in, which was a very rare air, and I had a lot of both help with domestic labor and then help on a set. I was still really having a hard time, and I became kind of obsessed with how we love to tell women they can have it all and balance it all, and you hear women talk about it on panels about their single experience, and just how little infrastructure and real support there is within bigger systems for parents who want to pursue their professional dreams and take care of their children. So I created the Jane Club, it started off as a co-working space that offered full-time childcare. Chudney created, designed, and ran our childcare center called The Nest. And it was a magical, beautiful space that we turned into a digital platform when the pandemic hit. We are just now starting to do in real life events, but offering childcare was always the core, the heartbeat of the Jane Club, because we never wanted women to feel that they couldn't engage, attend, work because they had children.
Yeah, I was brought on at the very beginning, and I was a mom of one at the time, but really struggling to get back to work. I was very clear that I was going to pop this baby out and then go back to running my business, and I don't think I put a shirt on for like 6 months, so now I wear a shirt. But I was really excited to be able to build something again from the ground up. I had started a business called Books and Cookies. We're also virtual and mobile now instead of a physical space, a literacy enrichment program. But to be able to create something that I really believed in, and to be able to support moms and parents that wanted to go and really still pursue their dreams and go after their dreams. So my mission, my intention was to create a space that you knew your kids were well taken care of, that they were learning and they were loved and they were close by, but they were away. So you could really focus. Yeah. You could take a meeting without a screaming baby, but you could check in on your baby all day.
And your title is like Chief Kid Officer, right?
Yes, I have the best title that I can put on a business card.
Well, I'd like to be Chief Kid Officer of the New York branch, if that's okay.
You got it. Absolutely.
Yes. And virtually, it's been an interesting thing to translate, but being able to still connect with these women's children and bring them an enriching program still
it's
online.
Amazing.
And it works. It works to look at kids over a computer.
Well, we love to do these. We do these talent shows once a month that Paul Scheer hosts, where the kids get to perform, and especially over the pandemic, giving them a sense of confidence and joy was just so wonderful. And so many of our Janes who came on, who didn't have kids, would just come on to watch the other kids, and it was a beautiful celebration of, the children during a time when I think they really needed it.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Okay, last topic. Let's talk about feeding a bit. Rob, I remember reading on Instagram, and you were talking a little bit earlier about how because your daughter came early, your feeding plan kind of was out the window. And I think we've all experienced those times when you have a plan and then the plan doesn't go to plan. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, we had visions like everyone does of, sitting by the fire and playing, soft music and surrounded by white roses and,
It's very romantic feeding plan.
But you just think that that everything is going to go according to your schedule, or and then also everything naturally will just fall into place. But it just doesn't always work out that way. So with us, they when your baby's in the NICU, they you've seen pictures of, they have the little tube down their throat, and they just start giving them tiny little amounts of formula and breast milk, and eventually when the mom produces enough milk, you just drive it over there, and then they give it to the baby. So we were just shuttling over breast milk, and then they were doing formula on their end. So when she came home, she was just kind of on a mixture of everything, I think, and but definitely by that time was being bottle fed, and she was too small to breastfeed. That's just not, they're not big enough or strong enough to do that yet. So, I think when my wife tried to breastfeed, our daughter's first words were like, "I ain't doing this." It was easier at the hospital. So, she had just been accustomed to taking from a bottle, and so that's just the way she did it. But it will all be different for everybody, and there's no right or wrong way. I'm sure a combination of all things work for everybody. I don't think people. I remember at the beginning thinking that like, oh well, we wouldn't do formula. Why would we do that? We'll just do breast milk. And like I'm all for breast milk, but as I'm sure you are too, Ron, from what I've heard. But
please don't grow out about
yeah,
breast
come on,
milk.
give it up, Ron. But you know, it may not that may not work out for you, or you may choose not to do that. So I think it's just different for everybody, and whatever works and makes you feel good, allow yourself to do that.
Yeah, the plan never goes according to plan. My plans were worked out so vastly differently between my first and my second. When my second came, I had this plan of breastfeeding, and then my appendix ruptured right when my baby was born, and I had to get to formula real fast. And you know, the truth is that I felt disappointed because I didn't like any of the options for formula, and it was a really kind of like traumatic experience, and I felt really insecure, and it was really just because I didn't like my choices. And it's really what led us to want to start ByHeart, to finally give parents choices that they can feel proud of, and that they can start feeding and parenting off feeling confident that they're giving baby best nutrition, no matter how they feed. And it's kind of unfair that today breastfeeding often makes you feel so proud, and you don't often have that same kind of pride when it comes to formula. And so we had to fix that, and we had to get into the formula game, because the plan never works out the way you planned, and you need another plan, and you deserve to feel prepared. So I'm right with you there that actually when you reflect, it never goes according to plan.
Yeah, and I'll just say it, you know, we started the company because it doesn't need to be that way. We're in this extremely exciting era of breast milk research, and nutrition science is having its moment, and the tools are there to do much better than what's on the shelf. But the barriers to innovating in this space are just so high that, you know, kind of all these breakthroughs are really outpacing new product development, you know, until now. We announced, you know, a really exciting milestone in our journey some months ago, when we completed the largest clinical trial from a new brand in 25 years and demonstrated some really breakthrough benefits for baby, which we're really excited about. But importantly, you know, for us, it's not just about creating solutions, but also being completely transparent and sharing education, and, you know, being very open about everything, because at the end of the day, parents should make the decisions for themselves. You know, we're not here to tell parents how to feed. We're here to provide education and resources, and, you know, enable parents to make, you know, decisions and feel really confident about those, whatever they might be.
Yeah,
and so that's.
I always say that I was a buffet feeder. It was just a buffet at my house. There was breast milk, there was pumped milk, there was formula, there was all sorts of feeding. And I think that, Chudney, you were saying that mixed feeding was very much your bag too. And you know, that's kind of how the reality is. And having great choices of all types of feeding is kind of what we're all about.
Yeah, my second is 2 now, and she will nurse till she goes to college because of the pandemic, likely. But she's a snacker. Like, she will, like, you know, she's like, Mama Mick, and then she's like, pass the raspberries. Like, she's you know, she's happy to drink anything or eat anything that I put in front of her. She's definitely a snacker. But yeah, I'm not sure I will ever be able to stop nursing. We're very tight. Whereas with my older, she was verbal very early on, and we knew it was time to stop when she was speaking a little Spanish, a little English, and sign language. She was like, "Mas milky, mama?" And I was like, "Oh, do you want some more?" She's like, "In a cup." And so I passed her a cup. So we'll see if that works with this one when she's off to college.
Well, all these stories are so great, and at the end of the day, this was kind of some of the inspiration for FeedFest, and we're really excited about all the great programming tomorrow, and we hope that this will be something that we'll do annually, so that parents continue to benefit from free access to experts and nutritionists and all the information available to feel really good about any feeding decisions that people make.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your stories and inspiring us with all the chaos. And anyone looking to have a child, I hope we haven't discouraged you. It's wonderful and as you've seen, also chaotic. So you got to be tough. But we really believe in community and elevating the stories, the real stories, resources, advice, bringing parents together. We've brought all of you guys here together because we're on the precipice of this launch. Waitlist is open, as Ron said. We're launching in January our new infant formula. And it's all about community and products and resources coming together to truly support parents. And so we think what we've created can really be game-changing for parents and for babies. And it's all about our community. So we're grateful that you're here. We're grateful that you're part of our journey. We want you to be part of our launch. Bring us all the advice and the stories you got. And we're grateful that you've been part of the journey and that we hope that you'll continue to be.
Yeah, thanks very much. Don't forget to tune in to FeedFest tomorrow. There's a nice little QR code there on your placemats if you want easy access. But thanks, and thanks so much to all of you. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.